Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we shall be creating a simple portfolio website. For Linda, this is a single page website. As you can see, everything is on one page and this is fully responsive. Let's check it out. This is how it looks on small device. You can see. So guys, we are going to create this using Bootstrap and some CSS. Let's get into it. So first I have a folder, HTML and Bootstrap portfolio, and then I have index.css and then index.html, and then we have images right here. So I got all these images from pexels.com. I have a video that I made on free stock images for web design. So let's open our Visual Studio Code, open our folder that we created on desktop. So as you can see, the index file is empty and the CSS file is empty. Since I mentioned that we are going to use Bootstrap, let's get Bootstrap into our working directory as well. So let's simply open our web browser and then let's look for Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is basically a framework that helps us get our styles into speed. So let's simply go to docs and then getting started. So we have the versions here. Let's use version 5.1 rather. So we can either copy the CDN into our working directory or we can simply download the Bootstrap files. So let's click on download. So once it's downloaded, we open it and then extract it. So after extracting it, we have our Bootstrap folder right here. So in it we have CSS and JS. So we are just going to copy these two, come back to our working directory, create a new folder and let's call it assets. Then inside the assets, let's paste the CSS and JS folders. So here you can see now we have CSS and JS. Now the next thing is we need Font Awesome. So let's open another window and look for Font Awesome. So I already have my kit, so I can just simply come to kits. Then this is the kit that I have. So I'm simply going to copy this kit and then add it to my index.html. So before we add it, let's create HTML structure. You press shift and exclamation, press enter. So we are going to add our Font Awesome. Let me write a comment here. We are going to paste it right there. And then we are also going to add our Bootstrap. So remember, we have already downloaded Bootstrap, so we're just going to get the minified version, which is right here. So the source is assets.js, then get down the minified version, and then let's also add Bootstrap CSS here. Let me comment this. Assets, this time we're linking CSS. Then we do bootstrap.min.css, which is right there. And then also let's link our CSS as well, though it's still empty. So let's just go and link index.css. Now we have Font Awesome and then we have Bootstrap, then we have CSS linked. So let's give our document a title, Linda Portfolio. So let's test whether our Bootstrap is working and linked well as well as the Font Awesome. So we're just going to create a simple button and then we give it a Bootstrap class of btn dash warning. This is for Bootstrap, and then for Font Awesome, let's try var address book. So let's open with live server and see. Right, so you can see our button is there and our address book is there. That means Font Awesome and Bootstrap is all set. So maybe the button doesn't have a word in it. Test button. That you guys can see clearly. So you can see this means that Bootstrap and Font Awesome are successfully linked. So let's remove this and get straight into the video. So pretty much we are going to be following the Bootstrap documentation. Close this. Yes, we are going to follow Bootstrap documentation right here. And let's do it together. So first thing is let's create a section and call it navigation. So this navigation part will contain the nav and the nav items. So we come to the docs and look for navbar. You can see here examples of responsive navigation header includes support for branding, navigation and more, including support for your Collapse plugin. So let's just look at a few examples. We have one here. And when you copy this is how it will look. And then we have another here, and then we have another here. You can simply choose the one you feel like you like. So I'm just going to choose this one, and then we shall customize it the way we want it. So let's simply copy this code and then paste it there, and then start customizing. So before we move on, let's see how it looks on our page. This is how it looks. It's now time to modify it. First thing you see, the background is a bit colored, so let's just change it BG light to BG white. You can see it's gone. And then let's change navbar to Linda. That's what we have. And then let's change these menu items as well. We have home, we have my works, we have pricing. Let's remove this disabled class and just change it to about me. And then let's add another class, paste it and paste it. Then we have pricing already. Pricing, client. I think we might not need this, so let's remove it. Let's link it to hash and that. And then let's have contact. So this is so far what we have. And then another thing, you notice that it is on a wider page. So let's remove this fluid and let it just be container. So fluid makes it go wide on a full width, and container simply adjusts it. So that's what we have. Alright, let's move to CSS. So from our CSS, let's style the navigation. Let's give it a width of 100%, position, relative, minimum height, 60 pixels, Z index. Let's give it 1000. Alright, so next thing is let's move this to the left and make the contact a button. Alright, so let's get the class or ID and style this accordingly. So let's go back to our CSS. Before we move to the CSS, let's look for that. Let's get the navbar ID. For ID, they start with hash, then paste, and then let's give it justify content, and then give it flex end. So what this does is it moves this to the end, and then let's wrap this into an H1. So we have Linda, it's right here. Let's wrap it in a H1. Next, let's work on its color as well. So we have the navbar brand. Since this is a Bootstrap class, when you're writing it in CSS, you make sure you override the Bootstrap so that it takes effect. So we have navbar light class and navbar brand. Come here. Let's give it a color 2299 AA rather. So it doesn't take effect because the Bootstrap is dominant. So to make it take effect, let's just add up important. So you see the color has changed. Let's give it a font size as well of 2 rem. So guys, you can see we are slowly modifying our Bootstrap navbar. So let's now work on the link as well, on these links. So let's go back to our CSS and then get the classes navbar. Okay, I think we should just get them from here. So we have, let's pick one of these, navbar light. Then also we have navbar nav, which is the UL class. Class starts with a dot, and then the last class is navbar link. So it's just nav link. Alright, put it there. So it's a class, it starts with a dot. Right, let's give them some styles. So this style is going to take effect on all these 3 classes. So let's give it color. This is the color of the font, 3. Let's give it a font weight of 600. Padding left, 1.2 rem. Then padding right, 1.2 rem. So let's see what has changed. Right, so we have this. This is a bit dark, so it's because of the active class. So let's just remove it here. So that's what we have so far. Let's style the contact. So we are going to give it button class. So let's call it btn primary. So that's how it looks. And then let's come to our CSS and style the button. Let's override the Bootstrap button classes. Let's give it a background color, that, and override it. Let's give it a border radius of 2 rem, padding left, 2 rem, padding right, 2 rem. Then let's give it color and let it be white. So this is what we have. The color is not taking effect, so let's override it. Alright, that's what we have. So the padding left and that. Same here. Alright, this is what we have, and it is already responsive, as you can see. So let's move to the next item, that is the banner. So we are done with this section, the navigation section. Let's create another section and call it banner. And inside the banner we have two items. We have a container. Inside the container, let's create a row. And then inside the row, let's create two columns. We'll call it call MD6, and then the second one 6. So in the first, we just have an images, and let's call it banner.jpg. And then in the second, we have two items. We have the heading, hi, I'm Linda and I am a front-end developer. And then within this, we have paragraph, and the paragraph has some content. Then after the paragraph, we have a button. For now, let's put a hash inside. Then it has my works. So let's give this button a class of btn primary. So let's check what we have so far. So this is what we have, and you can see now the button is automatically taking up the styles. We have the image that is so huge, so to make it fit in, we simply give it a class img fluid. This is a Bootstrap class. So you guys, you can see that it's taking shape slowly. There's a typo here. Okay, my works. And then let's go to our CSS and style the banner. So the class is banner. Let's give it a background color of EAE7DC. So that's what we have. So you can see it's really so close from the next section. Let's give it a bit of spacing. So we can just come to this and use a Bootstrap class, vertical padding, and give it 5. So we don't have to write CSS here. So yeah, you can see that. Next is let's move this to a bit center as well. So let's give it also a vertical padding of 4. So you can see, let's give it 5. Alright, this is a bit balancing. So let's have the H1 have the same color as the logo. Go back to index just above at the beginning. H1, let's give it color that. So you see it has taken shape. Now let's move on to the next section, which is my works. Let me comment on this banner section. Then the next is my works section. So I'm just going to do section hash what I do. So this is an ID of what I do. Then inside it, let's give it a container class. And in the container class, let's give it a row class. And in the row class, let's have two columns. The first one is 7 and the second one is 5. So in the first one, we have an H1 with a heading, what can I do? And then we have a paragraph with content. Then another paragraph with content, and then another paragraph with content. And then below it, let's add call to action, which is my works, and let this be a button as well. We give it a class btn primary. So wow, this is what we so far have: the 3 paragraphs, the heading, and the button. So let's remove the border of this button. Let's come to our CSS where we style the buttons. Border none. So the borders are gone. Perfect. Now you can see when I scroll, this is disappearing. So let's go back to our nav section here in the index and then just make it fixed. So let's give it a class here in the nav class. So we give it a Bootstrap class called fixed top. Alright, so when I scroll, it remains. You see that? So when I minimize this, everything so far is good. So let's move on. Give this some spacing. Back to the what I do section. Let's give it a class py vertical padding of 5. So that's what it does. So let's work on the second column, which is called MD5. So within this column, we are going to divide it into further 2 columns. So let's create a class and give it row. And then in the first row, we give it a class of 2. And then in the second, let's give it a column class of 10. So the first column class has an icon, globe, and also let's give this icon a class called icon. We shall style this maybe later. And then in the second column, we have an item of what I do, web design, and then we have some dummy paragraph in it. So this is what we have. We can reduce on the text. It looks a bit so much. This is where we are. So let's simply reduce on this text so that it can balance. This is better. And then let's add other items. So this, we are just going to copy this same and duplicate it and paste it and then paste it. And then we can change the items. So far this is how it looks. Web design, web design, web design. So let's change to another item of art design and then mobile design. And then we can change the icon as well to, is it mobile? And then we can change this icon to file. So this is what we have. So let's this color match with this. So we come back here in the CSS where we had H1. Let's add also H4 so that it adapts the same color. Now let's style these icons. So we gave the icon a class. You remember the class called icon. So let's copy this to our CSS. It's a class, so it starts with a dot. So let's give it a color of that. Does it change? Oh yeah. Oh really? Okay, it looks weird. So let's give it a color of white. And then let's give it a background color of that. Let's give it a height of 50 pixels. Okay. Let's also give it maximum width of 50 pixels. And then width 100%, and let's override this, make it important so you can see that. And then let's give it a margin of auto padding 12 pixels, background size of 20 pixels. Then let's give it a border radius of 28 pixels. So we might increase the height to 70. So let's make the background size 20%. Let's increase the padding to 17. So this is what we have. Let's look at this. This is what we have so far. So let's create a bit of space here between this item and this other one up. So let's just come to the HTML and give this row py5, vertical padding. Yeah, that's better. Or simply 4. Alright. Next section is, let's give it an ID, my works. Also, let's give it a class, vertical padding of 5. Let's try to be consistent. And then inside it, we have a div. Let's give it text center. We have H1, my works. Then a paragraph. Take a look at some of my work. So let's create a container, let's create a row, then let's create a column, call MD is medium. Then let's have an image, images, let's choose from the navbar. Then let's give it a class of img fluid. Then below it, let's have a H5 art and design. This is what we have. Let's give it a vertical padding of 4. And then let's copy this same column twice and then change the image. navbar4. Change also this one. navbar that. And then change this to web design. And then change this to mobile design. Sorry, design appears twice. So this is what we have. And when we check on the responsiveness, it is responsive. So let's go to index.css and style that section. So basically, we just need to add a background, this same background that this one have. So we can just go where the banner is and add the ID, which is my works. So you can see it has taken the background. And then let's add some spacing in this. Using Bootstrap, we simply do add a class empty4. Let's test for 1. Okay, this is better. So let's add the same class for the rest. So let's just copy this, add it to this H5, and also add it to this H5. I think we are good to go here. Alright. So we notice that the navigation is not working. So we have added my works. So let's add it so that when someone clicks here, it can scroll to my works down. So we simply come back to the navigation and add the ID here, my works. let's test this, my works. So you see that? Alright, let's also do the same for pricing, though we haven't finished it. And then there is a section missing that's about me. So let's just copy this, paste it there, then call it about me. Then add the ID about. So also here, let's add ID clients. Then also here, let's add the ID contact. So we are going to add these pages one by one. Let's see, my work, about me is noted there, pricing noted there. Alright, let's move on. So after my works, let's work on the about me section. So we are going to create a section and give it an ID about. Then let's give it a class with a vertical padding to 5 as usual. Then let's give it a container. Be careful with spellings. Container. Let's give it a row, and inside the row let's have 2 columns. Call MD6, and then copy this same. We're going to have 2. This is the first one, then the same one, though the first one has an image, so let's just add image about. Let's give it a class img fluid, and then right here in about, let's add a h1 class. Let's give it a vertical padding of 2, and then write something about me. Then just below it, let's add some paragraphs. Lorem, then copy this, paste. So this is how the about me section looks. So when I click here, you can see it comes to about me. When I click here, it goes to my works. When I click there, it goes to the banner page rather. This page doesn't have much. So next, let's go to the pricing section. Section hash pricing. Let's also give it a class container. Inside the container, let's give it a heading, text center, call it pricing. Then a paragraph with also text center. Choose a favorable package for your needs. So after this, let's create a row, and inside the row we also have 3 different columns, so we shall size them into 4 each. So the first one is call md4.py vertical margin of 4. So we are going to have this same. So after this, let's create a card and also give it a vertical padding of 4. Then inside the card, let's have a card body. All these are Bootstrap classes, yeah? Text center. Then we have h5, which we shall call card title. Give it a title, which is mobile design. Then we have an h1, which I'm going to give a class of card subtitle, margin bottom 2. Then I'll give it a price, which is $59. And then I have a paragraph, and I call it per project. And then this will include packages, planning, move a bit up, consultancy, design. So after this, let's just add HR, then technical support. Then let's add a break here, and then add a link, which is obviously a button. For now, it's not linking anywhere. Let's just put the word get started. And then we can give it the same button class as the ones we have given. That is btn primary. So let's see what we have under pricing. This is what we have. Okay, planning, consultancy, design. Let's add another HR here. So when I come to pricing, alright. So we are going to do the same. We're just going to copy this column up to here. See where I'm copying from, this line to here. So I'll just copy this and duplicate it there and duplicate it there. So this is what we have. So I'll just change a few things here. So the second item will basically be at design. Then I'll change the price to maybe $79. And then this other one will be web design. And then I'll change the price to maybe $99. So this is what we have. Now let's go and style the pricing. So that looks a bit good. So let's go to our CSS. Let's give it a background. It actually has the same background as this. So we're just going to add the ID pricing there. So guys, you can see that. And then let's style the HR as well. Come here. So we're just going to a bit reduce it so that it is a bit shorter. So let's give it margin left and right. HR margin left 4M, margin right 4M. This is better. So let's check the responsiveness. Right. So this is the pricing section. So the next section is pricing is done. My works is done. This is done. This is done. This is done. So we have clients and contacts. So let's go to the next section. That is the client section. So we have section. Give it an ID of client. Is it client or clients? Let's give it a class of PY5. Wrap it in a container. H1 text center MB4 brands I've worked with. Give it a paragraph. Text center. I have worked with popular brands. So after this, let's give it a row. And in the row, let's create 3 different columns. So we shall have call MD4, MY4. And then give another class which is card PY2. And then after card, we have the card body and text center. We have paragraph. My clients H1, let's just put some random company there, Mozilla, and the projects worked for was mobile app UI design. Let's check what we have. So this is what we have so far. Brands I've worked with, brands. Okay, so we are going to copy this column and duplicate it twice so that we have something like that. Then let's just change the name and the project. Starly. The project was web design. The next company is Cuckoo user interface design. So this is what we have. So let's remove the color here. Come to index.css. Let me comment this. My clients. Then card. Let's give it a background color of our theme color. C. And then give it a border of none. Let's try to make this a class. It's actually clients, not my clients. So let's change this to clients. So that's what it has. So let's give it the grayish color instead. That was hash. This is the background. Yeah, this looks better. So we have pricing, we have clients. So below the clients, just within the same section, which is clients, let's add a bit of what clients say about us. So let's add testimonials. As usual, let's give it a vertical padding of 5. Then wrap it in a container. Wrap it in a row. Add a H1. You can say what my clients say. So here we can get a carousel. Just come to Bootstrap and search for carousel. Do we have any? We have this. We have this. So let's just copy this and then change the image text and then add it there. So let's see. This is how we're gonna have it. But now let's get rid of the images. Instead of this, let's put our own image here. IMG images. Then let's have team 2. Then let's add a paragraph. Then below it, let's have the name of the client. Let's call the first one Jen and call her a client. So let's get rid of these next icons, these buttons, whatsoever. So that's what we have, our first client. So the second client, I think we are going to copy the same thing. Remove this and paste that, and also paste that. So we're just going to change the images. Team 3, team 4, the first client, the second client, the third one. So let's work on the images. They are so large. Before we work on the images, let's change the details. So the first client was Jen. Let's make the second one to Mary. Then let's make the third one to Carol. Just some random names. So let's go to index.css and then style our testimonials. Let's give it the same background. So we just add the class testimonials. Instead of writing it again, let's just add it here. So you can see the background is already there. So now let's work on the image. So we have testimonials image. Let's give it a border radius. Is it? Sorry, border radius 3 rem. Then let's work on the image size. Class is img fluid. Let's copy the same class. Then let's give the image size. Just say height 50 pixels. Oh, that is so small. Let's add it to 100 perhaps. Is this better? See, 120. So let's increase the border radius to 4 Alright, that's better. And then let's make the span as well. So we have testimonials, span, font style, let's give it italic. Alright, so guys can see that. So let's work on the last item, which is contact. Simply come here and create the next section. ID, contact. Let's give it a class of py5, div container, div row, h1 text center, my contacts. We are going to divide this into 2 columns. Call md6, and then after this let's copy this same. Then in the first column let's add a card, and then a card body, text center. So we're just going to give an icon, envelope. Then after that let's give it h5 email. This is basically a card title. Then a paragraph, instant reply. Then I add the email, info@linda.com. Then let's add another paragraph, get in touch. Then we do mail to info@linda.com. Send me an email. So let's see how this part looks. Contacts. Then let's give the icon class. Right, then let's copy this entire card again to the next column and then modify it. So the next one is phone. Let's change the icon to phone. Let's change this to Monday to Friday 5 p.m. And then we can change this to call me, and then let's just leave this blank and then write there some number, phone number. So that's what we have. So let's style it. Let's go to CSS. So we are going to give the cards a background color. So let's see where we have client's card. Let's also add the contacts card as well. Was it an ID or was it a class? So let's see, it's contact, not contacts. So let's change this, contact, and then card. So this should work. Alright, this is perfect. So let's give some spacing here. Let's give it py4. So this is better. Let's style this contact. Let's add it there. We have contact anchor tag, and let's simply just give it text decoration none. So that's what we have. So let's go to the next item, which is the footer. The last section is footer. So let's give it section footer. Also in the same class, let's give it background dark, py5, div text center. Let's also make the text white in color. Then inside this, let's have a span. Just call it copyright 2022 Linda, all rights reserved, designed by pennyN.com, aka the code check. So let's wrap this so that we see. And then let's continue in the span and say all images from https pexels.com. Give the credit to Pexels. So this is what we have. So let's style this footer as well. Go to index, footer, a text decoration, none, color, then font style, let's give it italic. So that's what we have so far, and let's check if this works. Wow, and this is fully responsive. So one last thing is, let's add a font here. So simply go to Google Fonts and let's look for a favorable font that would make our portfolio look nice. So there's already some fonts here. There's this. So let's import this font. Let's copy this. For this to work, make sure you have internet. And then on top of our CSS file, then the entire document, let's give it a font family. Let's just come back here. Actually, let's just copy this, Ctrl+C, and then paste it there. So that's how our website looks like. Maybe let's increase the font sizes as well. All the paragraphs, let's give them line height of 20 pixels. And then font size of 20 pixels. This font is a bit bold, so let's opt for the lighter version of this font. The lighter version is, let's remove this. The lighter version is 300. So let's import this instead. Let's just import and then replace this. Yes, this is much better. So the paragraph and the A's, and then the H1, let's make it a bit bold by giving it a font weight of 600. Oh yeah, this looks way better. And then these are a bit small. These are H5s, so let's add H5 as well. P, H5, and A. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up and then subscribe.